My parents always favored my little brother Goldie and disowned me because I wanted to start my own business. Now my company is successful and my brother lost his job and my parents are demanding that I hire him. I'm 29 years old, and recently my parents, whom I haven't spoken to in the last 5 years, wrote to me. They need my help. More precisely, they want me to help my brother. They always treated my brother, Craig, 31 years old, like the golden child. My parents didn't even try to hide it because he used to surpass me in everything, especially in academics. They never let me forget it, constantly reminding me that he was doing much better in school, and that I needed to work harder if I wanted to be on the same level as him. Craig. He got into a great college, and 5 years ago became the youngest vice president in the history of his company. He had been working there since graduation and was earning well from the start. But when he made history as the youngest vice president of the company, his prestigious corporate job became the benchmark for me, and my parents never tired of rubbing it in my face. To be honest, I never wanted to work from 9 to 5. That lifestyle certainly has its advantages, but I always dreamed of becoming an entrepreneur ever since I learned the meaning of the word. 5 years ago, after working at several companies and gaining knowledge in the field that interested me, I finally decided to start my own business, a modern and stylish car tuning company that I developed myself. I spent a considerable amount of time on research and development, and I had a well-thought-out business plan, so I decided to discuss it with my parents first. Despite their different attitudes towards me and my brother, I believed that they also wanted the best for me. After all, they are my parents. So I told them about my plans. 2 days after the party they threw in honor of my brother's new job. I expected them to give some feedback, but instead, they just started laughing and said I must be trying to prank them. To them, it seemed like a disgrace that after so many years of studying, my great idea for a future business turned out to be tuning cars. I said I was serious, but they replied that they advised me not to quit because they would be ashamed to call their son a failure. They were sure that my business was doomed from the start because I wasn't competent enough, and compared to my brother, they didn't want me to mess up so badly. So it would be better for me to just stay at my current job. I was offended by this and I argued with them, stating that I would open the business anyway, with or without their support. They said I was free to do whatever I wanted, but I would be responsible for the consequences. If I decide to pursue my idea, they will be forced to cut me out of their lives because I will be a disgrace to them, and they are already sure of it. They also said they were tired of introducing their sons. One is a vice president of a prestigious company who cannot be at fault. A company, and another 25-year-old guy who is still trying to figure out what he wants to do in life. So they had been thinking for a long time about discussing this with me and finally stated that I have 2 options. Either I continue to build a career at my current job and don't embarrass them, or I do what I want, make a fool of myself, but then I lose my family. I think it's obvious what I chose. I cut them out of my life and no longer communicated with them. Since then, I haven't kept in touch with their brother because he, of course, sided with the parents. But I'm fine with that. He was always too arrogant, so I never wanted to have anything to do with him from the start. I worked with machines for a long time, and that's where the idea for my business came from. I believed in it. I knew it was what people needed, so I decided to take the risk and prove to my parents that they were wrong. I quit my job and started moving towards my goal. Yes, it was a risky move, and I won't say it's something to be proud of. In fact, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. But I succeeded. A few months later, I found investors and was able to launch my business. At first, it was tough for me. I was literally living from paycheck to paycheck and relied solely on word of mouth. But the more people learned about my business, the more clients I had. About a year and a half later, the business started gaining momentum. Now everything is fine with me, I have my own apartment, and it's quite nice. I live in a great neighborhood, I have a good car, and honestly, I have everything I dreamed of at the very beginning. I wouldn't say I've become a millionaire, but I definitely earn enough, and I certainly can't call myself a failure as my parents once thought of me. So you could say, I proved them wrong, and that really makes me happy. It makes me so happy that I don't even feel the need to show them my success. It's just not worth it. In the last 5 years, I haven't tried to contact them even once. During this time, I even married my girlfriend, whom I had been dating for 8 years, and we've been married for 2 years now. And last month, we found out that we're expecting a child. So many important events have happened in my life, but I never felt the urge to inform my parents about them. They know where to find me. They just need to ask any relative and they'll be told where I live if they really want to see me. Besides, I know they are aware of my life because I keep in touch with the rest of the family, and I'm told that my parents often ask about me, but they never try to reach out themselves. Apparently that's their way of dealing with the situation. But in any case, last week they finally decided to write to me and asked if I wanted to meet. I discussed it with my wife, and she said that I should go and find out what they want to talk about. There were no details in their message, so I didn't know what to expect, but I still went to their house. When I arrived, they greeted me quite warmly, but I immediately felt that something was off. Even when I lived with them, they were never this courteous. So while they were trying to start a casual, I knew the conversation was just a prelude to something bigger. And finally, they got to the main point. They said they had heard about how well my business was doing and invited me to congratulate me. They didn't apologize, but stated that they were glad I was able to prove them wrong, and now their previous skepticism was completely unfounded. Well, that's certainly nice to hear, and I didn't even know what to say, so I just smiled. But then they started telling me that Craig had been having a lot of bad luck in the past couple of months. His company was going through tough times, there were mass layoffs, and even the top management was let go, including him. So for the last 4 months, he was just sitting at home doing nothing. His parents said that he was trying to find a new job, but after so many years at one company, he just didn't know where to start and was very upset about everything that had happened to him. I found it strange that they even started talking about him, as I couldn't do anything in this situation, so I just listened, waiting to see where they were going with it. Finally, they got to the point and asked if I could take their brother to work with me. According to them, he is currently so overwhelmed that he can't even apply for a new job, and all the offers he receives are significantly below his previous salary, so he really needs help. The parents wanted me to offer him a good position in my company with a good salary, and at the same time he could bring his experience to the business. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said I needed time to think and that I would give them an answer later. I deliberately didn't say yes because I just didn't know how to react to it. I should have guessed that they approached me for a reason. They had the opportunity to do this earlier, but they never did. They looked pleased with themselves, as if they expected me to definitely agree. But when I got home, I thought about it for a long time, and after discussing it with my wife, I decided to decline. My wife works at a bank and is not connected to my business, but she said that in the professional sphere, I make the decisions, and she doesn't want to interfere. If I believe that I won't be able to work with my brother, then so be it. Moreover, she doesn't believe that the parents truly wanted to reconcile. They just needed me to help Craig, so I have no reason to agree to their request. After all, I never promised to help them, which means I owe them nothing. I wasn't going to inform them of my refusal right away because I knew that if I said no, they would immediately paint me in a bad light. I tried to avoid conflict, but they started messaging me every day asking about my decision, and I just ignored their messages. But 2 days ago they called and demanded an answer. Then I said that I had thought it over, and after much consideration I realized that I couldn't work with Craig, and I don't want him to work with me. We never got along, and I don't think I owe him or his parents such a favor. After that, they just went mad. They started screaming, remembering everything they had ever done for me, how they raised me, provided for me, and bought me everything I wanted in childhood. And now, when they were counting on my gratitude, I turned my back on them and pretended as if I didn't owe them anything. I found this to be completely unfair. They took care of me because I was a child and depended on them, not because they were doing me a favor. Yes, and that has nothing to do with the matter at all. I tried to explain that the only reason for my refusal is that I cannot work with my brother. There's no need to yell at me because of this. Besides, we haven't spoken for 5 years, because they themselves said they don't believe in me and didn't even invest in my business, so they have no right to expect that I would let them boss me around now. But they kept yelling, claiming that they approached me only because 5 years had passed, and they thought I had finally forgotten everything since things are going well for me now. And in their opinion, I'm just petty, holding on to old grievances and refusing to help my own family. They reminded me that Craig is my brother, and since he's in a difficult situation now, I should be there to support him. They even said that if I were in his place, he would do the same for me. They assured me that if my business didn't succeed, they would support me, and therefore I'm now obliged to do the same for them. The situation was becoming more and more complicated and tense, until I finally said that I no longer wanted to talk to them. After that, I simply hung up and blocked their numbers. Since then, I have felt very strange and can't sort out my feelings because of the words about how they would have helped me if I were in Craig's place. I talked about it with my wife, and she said that they say that because I wasn't in his position, and they are just trying to manipulate me. So I shouldn't give in to it, especially since they haven't even apologized, yet they still expect me to help him. Craig was never kind to me in childhood, and I was constantly bullied, so I understand that she is right. But despite this, I still have some strange feeling of guilt. I don't know, I just feel weird about this whole situation. Am I a jerk for refusing to help my brother after he lost his job? First update. Thank you to everyone who responded to my post. It's been some time since I last spoke with my parents, and honestly, I realized that my refusal is not such a big problem. It's not like my brother will never be able to find a job again, I just personally don't want to work with him. I already mentioned that I discussed this with my wife, and we both decided not to change our decision. But my parents are clearly not satisfied with this. They have spread stories throughout the family that I have always been jealous of my brother, and now I'm supposedly happy to have the opportunity to spite my family. I really don't understand why they are reacting so strongly to this, especially considering that they are literally messaging every relative, telling them about me. The relatives aren't even asking them anything, but they just deliberately write to them and complain. It's just ridiculous, and it seems to me that they are just trying to draw attention to themselves. But I'm not going to play along with them. No matter what they do, I'm not going to unblock them and discuss it. It's with them. Some relatives they wrote to send me screenshots. I replied to them and explained the whole situation. Basically, they already knew everything. For the last 5 years, my parents and I met at family events and didn't talk to each other, so most were aware of our complicated relationship. Well, now they've gone too far by trying to involve other people and make me look bad. In any case, after I explained everything, most relatives said that I shouldn't worry about my parents at all. They are not going to judge me because they know what happened before and understand that my parents are just dramatizing now, so that makes me happy. Honestly, I have more important things to deal with right now. My wife is pregnant, and I don't think I want to waste time on these conflicts. We were planning to announce it in a couple of weeks, but now I'm considering doing it sooner so that my parents finally get the hint and stop bothering me. I think it's a good idea, although I'm not sure it will work because my parents are quite heartless people. They might even try to keep pressuring us despite my wife's pregnancy. You can expect anything from them, that's for sure. Second update. Hi, my wife and I announced the pregnancy on social media a few days ago. It's been about 10 days since my last conversation with my parents. Most of the relatives congratulated us, but then I received a letter from an unknown address saying that my child will suffer because of what I did to the family. I immediately realized it was from my parents. No one else would even think to write something so disgusting. Our baby hasn't even been born yet, and they already wish him harm. Just because I refused to help my brother. And it wasn't even Craig who asked me for help, otherwise I might have at least considered it. It's the parents who want me to give him a job. However, it doesn't matter anymore. Even if I had actually done something terrible, it wouldn't give them the right to write such things. I didn't tell my wife about it because I didn't want to upset her. She's still in the early stages of pregnancy, and it would be very unpleasant for her to read such things. I decided to handle it myself and went to my parents' house to talk to them in person. I wasn't going to unblock them, so this was the only way. But they didn't even open the door for me. I think they understood that they had done something wrong, and that's why they just hid. So I started speaking right from the porch, and honestly, I lost it. I yelled at them, saying they had no right to write such things, especially considering how they treated me throughout my childhood and how they've behaved for the past 5 years, as if I'm not their son at all. Now that I've achieved something, they suddenly want to get their share and make me divide it. Success with my brother, although when I was in a difficult situation, no one made Craig help me. And in general, they didn't even support me back then, so now they don't deserve the right to even talk to me. I told them that their manipulations don't work, they only push me further away. I also stated that I never want to talk to them again, and even if they try to apologize, I won't forgive. So they can say goodbye to any chance of getting help from me in their retirement and forget about meeting their grandchild. After that, I just turned around and went home. Honestly, I felt much better. I had been holding it in, ever since they started bothering me again, but it was time to put them in their place. I haven't told my wife about this conversation yet because I don't want to upset her. I think I won't tell her until after she gives birth. Update 3. Hello. After my last conversation with my parents last week, they seem to have decided to lie low and not do anything. I even threw a party to celebrate my wife's pregnancy for relatives and close friends. And I expected that my parents would try to pull something on that day, but they didn't even attempt to interfere. Then I thought that maybe they had finally left this story in the past. I decided to do the same. Well, this morning Craig called me directly at work. It was strange because he stopped communicating with me 5 years ago, and I had no idea why he suddenly decided to get in touch. For a moment, I thought he wanted to talk to me about the same thing as my parents, and would demand that I give him a job and I would have to go through all that circus again. So I just ignored him. The first call. But then he called several more times and even sent a message saying it was urgent and he really needed to talk to me. When I finally answered, he immediately said not to worry because he didn't need anything from me. He just wanted to discuss something that had been bothering him for a while. In the end, we talked today. He shared that he had been depressed for the past few weeks and hadn't communicated with anyone, not even responding to messages and letters he received from relatives. Only a couple of days ago did he finally check his mail and realize that the whole family was discussing how unfair it was for the parents to demand that I give him a job, especially considering how they treated me before. Craig was confused because over the past few weeks he had been in constant contact with his parents, but they never mentioned what was happening in the family. After he read all these messages, he asked his parents if they really tried to make me hire him. They categorically denied everything and said they didn't understand what it was about. But he had a feeling that they were lying, so he decided to call me to find out the truth. He admitted that he trusted his parents and shared his concerns about work with them, but he never once said that he wanted my help. Therefore, he couldn't understand why they suddenly started involving me and trying to make me hire him, even though he himself hadn't even asked for it. I thought he deserved to know the truth and told him everything as it was. I recounted exactly what his parents had told me, how they insisted that I was obliged to help him and support the family, because Craig is currently in a difficult situation, and they didn't want him to suffer. I told him that perhaps initially the parents really wanted to help him and support him so that he could get back on his feet, but in the end it just turned into pressure on me and I didn't like it at all. I told Craig that I was sorry. I sincerely regret that he lost his job. I know how important it was to him, how much effort he put into this company, and that being fired in such a situation was not easy. But to be honest, he himself understood that we never got along and could not work together normally. That's why I refused my parents' request. Craig seems to have understood this. He said he never intended to work with me, and it wasn't said with any disdain. It's just that right now he's in a state where he doesn't want to work at all. He deliberately took a break. The parents made it seem like he didn't have any decent offers at all. But in reality, he did have them. He just consciously didn't accept them because he decided to take a break, and it was his personal decision. It wasn't that he was very upset about being laid off. He just wants to take a little rest himself. He was clearly irritated by the whole situation, and I let him vent. Even though we haven't had a close relationship for a long time, I believe that he still had the right to express his emotions. After he vented everything, he said that he was very angry about how his parents handled the situation with him. Their actions made him look pathetic, and now many people think that he was desperately trying to persuade his parents to make me hire him. Although in reality he didn't do anything like that at all. He said he was going to talk to his parents about it and sort things out with them. He also apologized to me for everything I had to go through because of them. I thought that was quite a mature thing for him to do. It seems that over the past 5 years he has really grown up, especially after being laid off. I think he realized that nothing in life is permanent and that it's not worth being too proud and arrogant. Perhaps this situation became a kind of lesson for him. We certainly didn't suddenly become best friends, but at least we were able to have a normal conversation, and that's enough for me. Update 4. A couple of days ago, Craig and I talked on the phone again, and he said that after our conversation, he plans to sort things out with his parents and directly tell them what he thinks about all of this. He really did do that, but it didn't go very smoothly. The parents immediately took a defensive stance and began to justify themselves, saying they were just trying to help him because they believed his decision to take a break was wrong. In their opinion, he should have immediately started looking for a new, more prestigious job. This ended in a huge argument because Craig accused them of trying to control him his entire life, not allowing him to make his own decisions, even when he was already an adult. The parents, of course, didn't like this, and they started listing everything they had ever done for him, as if it were some kind of heroic deed. Although in fact, these are ordinary things that parents are supposed to do for their children. I really don't understand why they always act as if they were doing us some kind of favor. It wasn't a service, it's their direct responsibility. In general, the argument was so serious that now Craig no longer talks to them. And guess who they blamed again? Of course, me! I just don't understand how it turns out that I'm the one to blame for all their problems. This time they didn't even try to sort things out with me personally. They just posted on Facebook detailing how poor and miserable they are. Fortunately, all our relatives immediately took my side and put them in their place right in the comments. They reminded the parents that they were terrible not only to me but also to Craig. All these years they pressured him and tried to control him when he was already having a hard time. Instead of supporting him morally and emotionally, they only made the situation worse and portrayed him in a bad light. After the relatives literally tore them apart in the comments, the parents just deleted the post and blocked everyone from our family. As a result, they effectively pushed everyone away from them. And honestly, that makes me happy. As for Craig and me, he apologized for how he treated me in the past, and we decided to try to mend our relationship. Of course, we won't become best friends overnight, but at least now we can communicate normally. But right now, the most important thing for me is my wife and the fact that I will soon become a father. And that is the most important thing in my life. Well, that's the end of this story. Be sure to write in the comments what you think about it. Honestly, I didn't expect it to end this way. I really considered the possibility that Craig was still manipulating the author and actually asked his parents to help him. But it turned out not to be the case. Perhaps Craig is the main victim in this story. Because yes, it seems like the parents treated the author worse, but in fact, Craig succumbed to his parents' manipulations. And the author did not. And it turns out that Craig suffered the most in this whole story. His parents exhausted him so much throughout his life with their desire for him to achieve something that he literally couldn't continue working. And maybe I wasn't paying close attention to the whole story, but I got the impression that he doesn't have a wife, and accordingly, he just lives with his parents. In other words, he hasn't formed a family either, even though he's only 31 years old. Well, or not just, depending on how one looks at it. But I believe that he can still, in principle, build a family by the age of 40, especially with the realization that recently came to him. In general, I'm looking forward to your opinions in the comments. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Watch our previous video, which you can see right here, and good luck to you.